I really wanted to understand what was involved being a new industry in representing buyers. Obviously, I had obtained my real estate license, but I wanted to understand the skill set involved in representing a buyer more so than just what a course would provide. And look, that experience taught me some of the basics, and then overlaying that with the skill set that I already had. And look, the way we represent buyers is very research-based. It's very objective, and that's just based on my background. So I was able to then apply the process that I'd learnt and then overlay that with a lot of the resources that we were able to provide in due diligence and buyer education, to replicate that in a way that I felt was the best way possible for buyers to be purchasing here in Brisbane.
And we're seeing that sort of explosion of buyers agents coming into the market, and we're not necessarily seeing these enthusiastic buyers agents taking the time to work in another business to learn their craft. To your point, we're potentially just seeing them do maybe a short course or get into the market in a certain way. Can you expand on what you are observing, as president of REBA in terms of seeing how these, next generation of buyers agents are operating?
Absolutely. And, I think we're all seeing this happen around us, and those that have been in the industry for more than 7 or 8 years have seen this explosion of new buyers agents, especially in the last 5 years. Now, there's a lot of ways that they're sort of leapfrogging into this position. Yes, there's some commercially available short courses, not conducted by registered training organisations, but teaching people how to make money from buyers advocacy as a service. Look, I've never come from the motivation of trying to make money. I think the motivation must come from trying to help people, and I think that's where some of the messaging in the market is wrong, because it's attracting the wrong type of people at times. Because of some of the messaging in the market, we're seeing some people enter this industry that potentially have the wrong motivation. They are trying to make money, and therefore they're cutting corners in true buyer representation and true buyer advocacy. We're seeing some people try and circumnavigate best practice in terms of the way to be licensed. We're seeing some people that might be operating in other states. For example, they might be operating in New South Wales, or they might be operating in Victoria, but they've found a way to fast track the licensing process and circumnavigate within the rules, but not in a way that protects the consumer that they represent. And they may be going to other states where there's a faster pathway to become licensed, and then through automatic mutual recognition legislation, they start operating almost immediately without understanding the local legislation that applies to the state that they're operating in. A lot of people don't understand that in real estate, the legislation is state-based. So there are different rules within each state. There's a different contract process within each state. And because of that, it's so important for buyers to really understand who they are partnering with, because you want to make sure you're working with someone that really understands the intricacies of the state legislation, as well as the processes that operate within each state. So we are seeing all of these things. It's a huge concern for our industry, because obviously it's diluting the impact of what true buyers advocacy looks like. And that's a concern for me as REBA president, but also for others operating in the industry who are doing what is right for the consumer.
Can you you hinted on it, can you tell us a little bit about why the Queensland licensing process and how that probably creates a backdoor, and how that differs to other states and territories?
Yes, of course. So here in Queensland, and we operate in Queensland, so we know the licensing regime here. To work alongside another principal licensee here in Queensland, you need to do a registration course, which is a course run by a registered RTO, registered training organisation, and then once you've completed that course, and it could be done online in as little as a couple of weeks, unfortunately, you can then work alongside or under the supervision of a principal licensee. You then have the option to upgrade that to a full license. And again, some RTOs are providing that option which can be done, again, perhaps in as little as a month. And that enables you to operate independently as a fully licensed buyer's agent, or indeed a sales agent or property manager here in Queensland. Now, with new mutual recognition laws that are Australia-wide, that enables someone to come to Queensland, or in fact, perhaps just virtually, by enrolling in a Queensland registered training organisation course, obtain their full licence in potentially as short a time frame as up to 6 weeks, and then start operating in other jurisdictions, which may typically require up to 2 years of working under a principal licensee to obtain the adequate license if they were to choose the pathway that was adequate for that particular state. So it really is a shortcut, and unfortunately it teaches them how to operate under Queensland laws and Queensland frameworks, but it doesn't teach them how to operate under their local jurisdiction. And that's probably the biggest concern that we have, is that it's legal, yes. Is it ethical? Not sure. Is it best practice? Certainly not.
If you had your way, how would you close that loophole?
If I had my way, it would be a national licensing regime, especially for buyers advocacy, which has become more borderless. I think that the licensing regime has been set up specifically for selling agents and property managers, which typically are more patch-based or more location-based services. But with the rise of buyers advocacy, I simply don't think that the legislation and the licensing regime has kept up, because we are seeing that people can buy across borders with the rise of AI and digital technology. People can represent buyers from other states and purchase interstate. And because of this, we're seeing, these loopholes unfold. I believe that in time we may see changes in this space. There's certainly a lot of advocacy for change at the moment, but unfortunately the concern that we have is how many consumers will be impacted between now and when that change takes place, because we all know that legislative change can be very slow and very tedious. So that would be the best way to resolve the issue, but we know that that's not going to happen overnight.